Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another, actually, not the last Star Wars EU book study by any means, but the last Star Wars Red Harvest book study. We are going to finish out the book tonight, so kind of exciting. And of course, I can't do that alone. So, with me, as always, is my trusty TA in these streams, Mr. Al Baca. Welcome, Al Baca.
I'm hungry.
Wow. Dude, I had my headphones up really loud, and as soon as you came in and said "I'm hungry," and then that squeal, I was like, I couldn't turn it down fast enough. Wow. Oh,
Well,
okay.
Professor Geek, could you turn your headphones down so I don't,
I don't know. I must have nudged him or something. I usually don't have them up that loud. Whoa! Wow,
Wow,
that was
I'm surprised I got that screech hit.
You did. You got it in. Yeah, quite nice. Yeah, that was Matez Sojika says, our rest in peace ears. So yeah, now, what I was referring to is the he's been listening to the audiobook version with John Glover reading it, and they do these sound effects in it, and the scream of the zombie is quite blood curdling. So
yeah, it's hella creepy.
Definitely is.
Because I love any kind of a sound effect like that. Like I've sent you the scream of the Bigfoot that always gave me chills when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That they use in the movies and stuff, and like stuff like that. Just I like that little tingle in the spinal cord because while I can have tingling in the spinal cord.
So welcome to Matej and Melissa Harrison Sons, Daniel Heron. Great to see you there. Back to the drawing board. Horizon Talker, Autobot Megatron. Got quite a few people waiting here. Matej says I got on stream mid-sentence. It's actually not. If you go back and listen to the playbacks, it comes on just fine. I noticed that when I listen to people, I'm waiting for streams too. Sometimes just the when my Wi-Fi actually recognizes that they're live, it seems like you're hitting the midstream or whatever. But the stream actually starts technically, or at least it starts on the replays when they hit the button. So kind of a bummer you can't really get that right, you know?
Yeah, I'm never sure about that. I always try to like look and see the live and kind of think to myself, 3, 2, 1. Hi, Al Pals.
Yeah, I've done that before. Then you go to the playback and there's just like my face, you know, for 4 or 5 seconds before I start talking. So
not that sound engraver would mind that, I'm sure.
Of course, but she's not on these. She's taking a break for the zombie story, but we're done with the zombie story tonight. So remember, we're gonna wrap up this tonight, and then probably take 2 to 3 weeks of trying to wrap up Knights of the Old Republic, because we are going to enter into the Darth Bane trilogy after that, and you really do need to know the Knights of the Old Republic story for that to really kind of make sense. And since I'm doing the story playthrough on my channel, there are some people who are following these studies who haven't, you know, they're just not gamers and they haven't played through the KOTOR. So, you know, get that story down. But then we'll come back for the Darth Bane trilogy, which is going to be really fun. I just finished reading and taking notes, rereading and taking notes on the first one, just to have that kind of done and behind me, you know. So I'll revisit those right before we go on for it, but it'll be fun.
Anyway, you can get me a bargain bin version of that.
Oh yeah. I'll send you the audio and get you a paperback or something. They're pretty ubiquitous. They're easy to find. So yeah. Welcome to see who else I missed here. Zetopia, Samuel Proctor, Wolf 10 Media. Welcome. I think I got everybody there, or did I? Yeah, I think so.
You got a Horizon Talker?
I think I said Horizon Talker. Yep. Samuel Proctor says, which is what you talk about all the time about the problem of having multiple versions of characters. I'm not getting the. Oh, I'm sorry. He tagged me, I think, in a second part of the comment. He said, speaking of Critical Drinker, he just made a video talking about canon. In the end, he mentioned the fact that when you talk about Han Solo with different fans, they mean completely different versions. Yeah, which is the problem I talk about all the time when you have too many different versions of characters. Yeah.
Well, like Thrawn, you know, and because there's the Thrawn trilogy Thrawn, then there's the Rebels Thrawn, which
No, Daniel Heron. Sure, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. Says Old Republic got that rock dude in it? Nope. That is 100% High Republic. No, none of that High Republic garbage here.
It's just a rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a character.
Just a rock that pilots a plane or something. I don't know. It's their ultimate. Like, what else did you expect when you go down that road of diversity and deconstructing everything that makes a person, like their gender, like their blah blah blah? You just end up with a rock, So it was inevitable. But,
Charlie Brown is writing it. Look at a rock.
So I didn't really have a chance to go over my notes before the stream. I mean, of course, I reread earlier in the or shortly after the last stream last week, and got notes fresh and everything. But let me kind of catch myself up here. So we that's right. We dropped off right when Lord Scabrous went to go visit the Nettie. I'm blanking on his name again. I don't know why I always blank on his name. Dallas, thank you. The librarian, Nettie the librarian, the Nettie librarian. And Lord Scabrous, the sickness is overcoming him faster than he would like. We're going to hear his plan a little bit here in these chapters, but he just out of nowhere reaches out and takes a bite out of Dallas's face
without even realizing he did it.
Yeah, not even realizing he did it. It was just the hunger in him. And of course, that was Dallas is infected now. And he told Dallas to call out to Hestizo, our Jedi, our hero on the planet, who's the Jedi botanist, who's in connection, can communicate with this orchid still, even while it's in the zombie blood there. Call to her in the orchid's voice and have her come to the library, because that's where he wants to spring this trap for. So we'll find out more about that. But in 31, we go back to... Oh, sorry, good.
Which I must say has my favorite chapter title. The entire book.
Flesh Blizzard.
And it makes perfect sense, too.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
It does. But it's an interesting moment because you see, thus far we've seen Hestizo has been our in horror genre terms, she's our damsel. She's the pure lady. The pure one or the last girl or whatever, however you want to call her. In terms of horror archetypes, she's pretty helpless. She's a Jedi, but she's a Jedi botanist. She's been trained mainly to communicate with these force sensitive plants and whatnot, like the Murakami orchid. So when Tulka the Whippet came to kidnap her and bring her to this planet, this Sith planet, she was pretty helpless. I mean, pretty much nothing she could do against this Tulka Whippet bounty hunter. And we see her, the Jedi trained her to fight, but not much. Her brother is the one who's really trained as a I forget his technical classification, but he is a Jedi warrior. He's a Jedi Knight, I forget what he's technically there for. He's an investigator or tracker or something like that. Anyway, he's there on the planet looking for her. He's not doing too well. He's going up against Blade Masters and whatnot there at the Sith Academy. But here in chapter 31, we have Tulka and Hestizo confronted again with these zombies. They're piling onto them. They're coming for them. Once again, they have to face this battle. And Tulka grabs his bow and arrow. He's got his spear and everything. And he basically tells Hestizo, the Jedi trained you to fight, didn't they? We'll fight, because she says that she can't ask the orchid to grow anymore. That last time she did it, the orchid went silent. So she doesn't feel that she's able to communicate with it anymore. And it's a really cool scene. It's really cool because you get this little a good subversion of expectations. Suddenly she hears her brother Trace's voice in her mind. Now we know that Trace's her brother is on this planet with her. She doesn't know that yet. So all of a sudden we have his voice in her head and we think, oh, is he contacting her? No, it's not quite that. It's the voice of his memory, always kind of pushing her and telling her she can do it. She can make it through the academy and so forth. And she digs down deep into herself and suddenly just taps into the force and is able to basically it's like Speed Force moment, like with the Flash or something. It's really cool, which is a precedent set in the games and stuff like that. But she's able to move at super speed basically. And she takes out all these zombies. And it's cool the way it's written because the Whippet has just drawn an arrow and she sees him slowly drawing this arrow. And she's taken out like 4 or 5 of the zombies, at the moment that his arrow even launches. She actually grabs it from the air, breaks it in two, and then slices it into 2 zombies to like kind of push their heads together. Just crazy. And then once she go ahead.
All between 2 words that he was saying.
Yeah. 2 words that he was saying.
Get down. And then like between that, she did all this stuff.
Yeah. And as soon as she stops and he finishes saying down, all the zombies are around them dead, and Tulka looks at her and goes, "Leave any for me?" Again, it's like one of those, like, how am I supposed to feel about this? There's this funny kind of repartee between these 2 characters, and he was her kidnapper, and it's like she doesn't have the Stockholm syndrome, but like I almost do for her because he's kind of a cool character,
Yeah. But just the imagery, like I said, with the title of the chapter, Flesh Blizzard, all these people, to get to them, throwing themselves off this building, this tall tower, and just hamburgering themselves into the ground and still getting up.
Yeah.
It's outstanding imagery, but it is terrifying.
Yeah, it is. And at the end of the chapter, we have what pushes us on to the next moment. She receives that call that we know it's actually from Dallas the Nettie, who's infected now, calling her in the voice of the orchid, saying, "Come to the library, come to the library."
Stizo.
Yeah.
Stizo. I like the audio. Stizo.
Yeah, they use a lot of effects. Well, I mean, John Glover's a great actor anyway, and they use a lot of those effects on his voice and stuff. But we have her called there. Now Tulka says, I thought the orchid went dormant, went dead or whatever. She's like, I don't know what to tell you. He's calling me there. So they're on their way there to find out what's going on. Then we jump chapters again, keeping the suspense going here. You have your little moment with these characters, little scene, then you jump to another one. That's how we've seen Schreiber is ramping up suspense. He knows how to give you a break from it as well, to give you a longer chapter, but those short chapters back and forth. Then we come back into 32. We're with the Nettie, and it's a very short chapter. It's called Flame Town. But it's a wonderful. It starts out with "It's a pleasure to burn," and you have the Nettie himself, who's a tree-like alien being, of wooden being, setting his library on fire. So the infection has infected him to the point and spread to the point in which he's there's like a hunger. He's starting to feel the hunger, but at first, as it's erasing your personality in the context of him as a librarian, it tells him to burn all of these contents, all of these books and scrolls that he's kept held on to so dearly in life. Burn them. They're just fuel for the fire. They're fuel for me and stuff like that. And it's giving away his personality to this zombie communal virus.
Yeah, and I like that they give the virus a personality, basically.
Give it a voice.
Yeah, because they have it out. The sickness was in here now and violated the barriers of safety and security, and it was inside him, running through his roots, spreading through his branches and leaves, and the sickness was laughing.
Yeah. Oh, creepy. Yeah. Good line there. Yeah. Glad you read that. And it was just horrifying to me because the Nettie, of all the Sith, he's one of the characters that actually, well, I also like the mechanic, the guy who works at the landing pad. But the Nettie was one who was like, oh, kind of liked him. I was hoping he would, somehow survive or whatever. But he's totally into this as well. But he, giving over everything that he loved, giving over his all of the stuff that he, focused on was a problem. It's giving his personality away. Moving into chapter 33, which is called Red Wall. Ugh. Remember that this is our Sith students who found out that the zombies were building up a big wall of dead body parts and stuff like that to keep them in. We revisit them. We've got Mags. I forget all their names. It was Mags, Ra'at, Kendra, Hartwig.
Hartig.
Oh, it is Hartwig. It is Hartwig. You're right. It is Hartwig. Yeah. Okay. They're having a bit of an adventure there. They have a fight with some of the zombies. I don't have a lot to say about this. They get away. At one point though, which one is it that it's Ra'at who's infected? Ra'at's
right.
He has a cut. He feels it infected. And it's towards the end of the chapter. And again, Al's talking about the voice. let's see. Kendra just nodded her face as well as my. All right, so it's a really cool scene. In front of the foul-smelling wall, Harakin stood trembling. Attendant twitched and jigged in his jaw. This is one of the zombies, and Rat saw that the Sith Master had bitten. This is I'm sorry. This is a Jedi Master Harakin, the Jedi Master that they meet. He stood trembling. Attendant twitched and jigged in his jaw, and Rat saw that the Sith Master had bitten his lip hard enough to draw blood. Though they're asking through this way, he said. Kendra pointed to the wound on Rat's arm. How bad is it? Not bad. Did one of those things do that to you? I'm fine. Rat tore a scrap of his pant leg to hurry the blood out of the game, just like that. I can fight just as well with my left. Rat said weakly. You all did. Kendra just nodded with her inscrutable a map of face, a map of unspoken strategy. Master Harakin said nothing. Didn't seem to be paying attention. None of the others spoke either. Rat ignited his lightsaber again in his left hand and swung it down on the top of the wall. The thing's a belt. See? None of them commented. Next to him on either side, Kendra and Mags also fell to work cutting the wall. But he tried to pull all of his head to no avail. He thought of Nictor, how fast he had changed after Jura had bitten him. They wouldn't leave him behind too unless he showed them. They would leave him behind too unless he showed them they could fight. That he could fight. Use the Force. Let the dark side strengthen you. Yet at the same time, something cautioned him about using the Force in this current state of mind. Something told him it was a bad idea. No, not just bad, a terrible idea. Who knew what he might be invoking if he summoned it now? What is your state of mind right now? A voice inside asked. Dying. I'm dying. No, that was crazy. It was a flesh wound. He'd lost some blood, yes, but he was young and strong, trained, conditioned. He'd suffered those worse injuries in the pain chamber. For that matter, even today. What if those things were infected? Rat realized that he too was dizzy to stand. He was too dizzy to stand. A clammy layer of sweat had already crept over his forehead. We're seeing the gaping. He fell to his knees, shut his eyes. There was a desire to scream, but he couldn't muster a breath. Helpless, no longer having a choice, he invoked the power of the Sith Academy, of Sith alchemy. I'm sorry, the Force itself. Abide in me now. Fill me with the strength to stand and fight. And that's when it smashed into him at full volume, a vast black wave torrent beyond all reckoning. Too late, Rat realized he had invited into his brain. It might have learned to mimic the Force. It might have answered as the Force, but it was not the Force. Rat shivered. So this is what I want to get at. This is when the zombie scream takes him over and the virus takes him over, that it's mimicking the Force. And something tells Rat, don't call on the Force because whatever will answer. And I like the phrasing right there. It was either it had either infected the Force or it was answering the call for the Force or whatever it was. And you think about what the Force is, and the Force is what these Sith learned to call upon, the dark side of the Force anyway, to call upon it. It's this sort of, there is a communal essence to the Force. It's everywhere, pervades everything. But the dark side of it is trying to, let's just tap into it and use it for our purposes. It's just, let's just use parts of it. Let's just use the dark side of it, just for our purposes. And it's not a lot different between that and what the zombie virus does. The zombie virus is this other communal force that will come upon you and take over you, but you can't master it. It won't say, okay, that's enough, I'll walk away. It pushes itself on you completely. And that's, I don't know what Scriber's politics are or whatever. He's a Hollywood, or not Hollywood, but he's a successful writer. So chances are he's not in any way, I don't know. Chances are he's probably right there with the lockstep of the tribe as usual. But the when you tell a zombie story and when you tell it well, you can't help but to have these themes that guard against this communal think. And it does run right all into communism and whatnot. But even if you don't take it that far, just sort of that mob mentality, joining in just for the sake of belonging, that kind of idea, that's what the zombie stories do caution us against at every step. So I love this little picture here of Ra'at just trying to do what he usually does. No, this should work. I should be able to call on this thing and just use it as much as I want. But that's when you dabble in that sort of communal mindset that takes over your personality. Nothing wrong with community, right? But when you dabble into that mindset that wants a piece of you in return, in terms of your personality, that's dangerous, and that's what we see happening there.
It's like, it's possession, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just love this line. Mine now, the sickness said.
Yes.
Mind, body, and soul.
That's exactly. Not killing him, transforming him. Rot felt a dark orchestral surge of relief rushing through him. Released, he felt weightless, towering, godlike. A horrific smile gnarled over his face. He began to weep, big, bloody tears of gratitude running down his cheeks and dribbling off his chin. I can scream now, he thought. Oh, thank you. I will scream, and they will hear me. Bless you. I can scream, and they will know how it feels to have an entire galaxy spread out like an open grave at my feet. That is chilling. That is chilling. The thing that had been Manal Rahat jerked its jaws wide. In that instant, he saw, of all things, a pyramid, black as the tide that had obliterated all conscious thought, a thing resting in a pair of pale hands. At once, he knew his place in the galaxy. He knew everything, and he screamed. And as he did, he saw the combat master Hurakan standing directly in front of him with his hands outstretched. Goodbye, Rat, Hurakan said. Rat lunged forward. A white-hot explosion of force lightning exploded through him, and he knew no more. Wow, that is good writing. I mean, I gotta say, I don't like horror, but this is some damn good writing. I'm just gonna say it. It's really good.
Yeah, so that force lightning seems to work pretty well against these things if you can muster enough of it.
Yeah, you don't have to actually get close enough with the saber or anything like that. So
yeah, just literally like fry them into nothingness, into dust.
Explode them apart, or fry the synapses and everything. Let's see. Then we move to chapter 34, and here we've jumped in time a bit because we're back with Tulka now, but it's been a little while. He's actually dropped. At this point, he's dropped off Hestizo at the library. He refused to follow her in. He's back trying to find his ship, obviously, but he goes to he's through the pain pipe there, and he's trying to find his ship, and he feels guilty for leaving Hestizo at the library. Part of him does, which is an interesting touch, right? Because he's a bounty hunter, and he's like, no, I saved her before. I just wouldn't walk in there with her. Yeah, but you actually brought her there. You're a bounty hunter, So you see that little touch of humanity coming in there, which is interesting to see. And he ends up meeting the HK droid of Lord Scabras. The HK droid is there, and I forgot they're in the pain pipe. Yeah, the pain pipe is where he is. Remember, the pain pipe was like the training room. Think like the X-Men, danger room or something like that. But it was the where Rat was training earlier in the book with Master Hurakan.
That's exactly what I was thinking when they were talking about it.
The X-Men danger room.
Yeah, the X-Men danger room.
Exactly. Yeah, it sounds like that, right? Because you've got Tulka at first, before he even meets the HK droid, he's in there by himself, and the zombies are coming at him. Now he's in the control booth, and he's starting to push all the buttons to release the dangers of the pain pipe onto them. And of course, it doesn't. You can't hurt them. That you can unless you totally eviscerate them, they're going to keep coming. So eventually, he meets the HK droid, and I love this. I'm trying to find the part where he talks to the HK droid. Okay, here we go. Tulka says the whip had let out a low growl. Look, he said, pointing. You see what's down there? The droid's head pivoted toward the open space below, seething, now with hordes of undead Sith students. They were all attempting to scale the support struts, swinging their arms up. The closest ones were near enough now that Tulka could smell them. Response: Indeed, sir, the droid said dutifully, but I hardly see what... Your boss is the reason why all this went haywire in the first place. Query: I failed to see why. Here's why. Tulka wasn't bothering to look at the HK's photoreceptors anymore. His attention was completely devoted to the components on its brass plate. You're an HK model. Confirm. A Zerka Core HK series. Yes, sir, but you know what HK stands for? Response: It's an industry term, sir, but hunter-killer. The droid made a scandalized chirp. Correction. Respectfully, you're mistaken, sir. I am a protocol droid, proficient in millions of galactic languages, and Zerka built you special to get around local laws banning assassin droids. Tulka was gritting his teeth now. Those flip shields over your eyes, that's a combat modification. When Scabras brought you here, he put a restraining bolt on you. But if I do this, he yanked the bolt off. There was a brief hissing sizzle at the HK's processor muzzle shorted out. Tulka felt his skin tighten, his fur stand on end. He cast a grim look at the droid. Remember now? The HK didn't bother to answer. Weapon slots opened on its forearms to reveal an augmented laser array, bristling from both limbs. A second later, the control booth came alive with blaster fire. The Sith things recoiled, spun backward, pitched and pivoted off their feet by what appeared to be a nonstop fusillade of hot plasma. Somewhere to the left, Tulka ducked as the HK completed a full circle, laying down a line of fire so fast and dense that it seemed to create a single ballistic wave. He jerked his head back as a laser bolt ricocheted off the wall, then bounced past him to the opposite direction. Stand aside, the droid said, having apparently abandoned his customary method of speech along with its former programming. What? Its left leg rotated outward to reveal a wide barrel object extruding from the port. A massive jet blue flame roared straight across the room, igniting several of the Sith things, and they staggered, blazing, screaming as the flamethrower erupted a second time. So awesome. Through the sea of burning corpses, Tulka could see a clear corridor to the exit as the back of the simulator. One of the Sith things was slashing his way toward him, jaw sagging hideously, its face on fire. Tulka yanked his spear from it where it strapped against his back and rammed it hard into the thing's open mouth. Jerking the spear back, just the whippet glanced at the opposite direction. Where are you going? The droid asked. Back to my ship. Tulka was already halfway across the floor. He turned and looked back at the droid. You staying here? Here, with them? The HK didn't hesitate. It followed the whippet down through the simulation chamber, out of the pain pipe, and into the snow. It's such an awesome scene. It's awesome.
Unleashed hell, man.
I know. Dang. And if you played Knights of the Old Republic, or any of the other games, in the Old Republic series, you know what HKs do, you know what they're capable of. And it's just like, yes, that is freaking awesome, because the whole time this HK has been in the book, if you know the backstory, HKs are actually assassin droids. And for whatever reason, Scabrous has him as this protocol droid. He just finally, like Al said, unleashed hell. It's like, yep, that's pretty sweet. And then you got this, what a team to be on. Tulka, the bounty hunter whippet, and then a HK assassin droid. I'll be hanging out with them if I'm in a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, yeah. If you're going down a dark alley, they're the two you'd want to be with.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got these little teams, forming up and everything. The Sith students are kind of falling apart, although they did bring on Harakin. So we'll see what goes on with that. Chapter 35. Anatomy lesson. That's kind of creepy. I don't want to hear the word anatomy lesson in a zombie story. Right. We're back with the Sith students now. And we have so Rat's turned. This is an interesting moment. Are we going to talk about what happened back there, Mags asked. Kendra said, you got something to say? They decided that Rat turned fast. What about us, Mags asked. None of us was bitten. As far as I can tell, Hartwig looked around as if waiting to see the others would contradict him. You okay? Mags nodded. Kendra, you have something you need to come clean about? She didn't look around. Kendra, silence. Hey, Hartwig walked over, pushing past Mags and grabbed her shoulder, swinging her hard toward him. I'm talking to you. Kendra snapped around on him, her eyes brittle pellets. I'm clean. You sure? Hartwig hadn't lowered his hands. What's that on your neck? Very funny. You think I'm joking? He waited while Kendra reached up and touched her throat. So she has this little scratch on her throat, close to her jugular, actually. She says, just a cut, a piece of electrical fixture or whatever. You don't know that, Hartwig said. You don't think I remember being bitten? I think, he held her gaze, that there was a lot of infected blood flying around. And if some splashed on there, then I'd already be screaming your guts out, she said. Is this really what you want? She asked Hartwig, blade ready, because she pulls out her blade. She's ready to attack Hartwig again. Remember, her and Hartwig had the thing. Wait, Mag said. Nobody knows what the incubation period for this thing is, right? Hartwig didn't take his eyes off Kendra. Seemed pretty fast with Ra'at. Yeah, but Ra'at got tagged firsthand. Maybe accidental exposure takes longer. Kendra could hear Mag's voice growing more confident as he spoke, warming to his own argument. Point is, we don't know, so before anybody does something stupid, how about we all take a step back, strip down, and make sure nobody's got any open cuts that could have gotten contaminated blood in them. You're a Sith boy student at a co-ed school.
There you go.
Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, you're still thinking about seeing some boobs. That's just the way it works. You look back to the combat master Harakin, who still had not spoken. What do you think? Harakin nodded yes. Stripped down, Kendra's expression had already gone from bellicose to incredulous. You're asking me to take my clothes off. It's the only way to be sure. He glanced at Hartwig. You agree to that? Why not? Hartwig shrugged. I've got nothing to hide. He yanked off his tunic and uniform shirt. So they stripped down, sort of, almost anyway. Realize what's going on. But it's a cool scene because the whole time Screamer sets up this tension. Okay, we saw just what happened with Ra'at, rather. These infections can take them over at any time. Even Ra'at, a character that we've seen from the very beginning, who we thought, okay, maybe he could be one that survives. And now you see that Kendra's got a little cut, on her neck. So any of them, any of this could happen. And then at the end, though, somebody ends up attacking them, attacking them. It ends up being a Master Hurakan. And we remember that he's the one that they had seen chewing on his own lip. So he's had this slow infection in his body the whole time. And he comes at them and they end up having to somehow take him down. But it's a really cool little oh, wow, that's how you can, you can put gotcha moments like that in a story and it doesn't feel like it's a machination of the writer. It's not heavy-handed. It's part of the suspense of the story. You can have little gotchas like that are fun to experience first time, second time, third time, whatever. They're not the kind of gotcha moments that the whole story hangs on, that just the story exists for,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was well done. Did you?
Oh yeah. And of course they take, Hartwig, the Hurricanes takes a bite of Hartwig and kind of does him so it's just down to Kendra and Mags.
Yep, down to Kendra and Mags at this point.
I forget exactly where it happens, but I loved. And then of course, what's about to happen as all this is going down.
Yeah, remind me. I'm trying to go back to see because I get Hartwig and Mags are kind of two interchangeable characters in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Mags the one? Was Hartwig or Mags the one that was mad that they didn't get the lightsaber? Do you remember? I'm trying to go back and find the chapter it was in.
I don't remember. But you're right about them being kind of interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since we talked about them being like Slytherin, I associate them with those two guys who are always following Malfoy around.
Crab and Boyle.
Crab and Goyle. They were just, it's like them. I keep forgetting which one's which.
Yeah. I think I'm close to finding it because I think it's interesting here. Practicum. Almost got it. I think I'm in the right chapter here. Main corridor up there. Okay, yeah. So it actually is Mags. To make us no, is it? Kendra Winter for her.
About which one was ticked off he didn't get a lightsaber?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out here. I don't know. I should probably not take this long to find it, but it's
because once all this is kind of once Hurakan they decapitate Hurakan. Hurakan had chewed on Hartwig,
mm-hmm.
and then it's like down to Mags and Kendra, and Kendra kind of takes things into her own hands and takes her lightsaber and just hamstrings Mags. Basically,
doesn't even kill him though; just hamstrings him to let the zombies take him.
Yeah, that is cold, man.
Yes,
I mean,
that is evil. It is totally evil. It is absolutely evil. Okay, so here's what it is. It was actually Hartwig. It was Hartwig who who wanted the lightsaber. She gave it to Mags. And the reason I was looking at that, because either one of the way or the other, it was going to be kind of interesting. She chose to be left with Mags. When she grabbed those lightsabers, there were 4 of them and 3 lightsabers. She took, Riot grabbed one, and then she took 2. And then she threw one to Mags, deciding for herself which one she'd rather be with in a fight, either Mags or Hartwig. So at this point, she's got the one she'd rather be with. It's Mags. It's not Hartwig that you could see. You could kind of understand at that point her slicing him or whatever. He kind of, in her mind anyway, she'd think he sort of deserves it. But Mags, this is somebody else who could possibly help her survive something. And yeah, as Al said, just hamstrings him there and leaves him for the zombies to get to so she can get away. Oh,
so
Kendra.
He was screaming at her, asking her why she did it. What did she think she was doing? But by the time Kendra had already turned and started running, not walking, but running as fast as she could in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Mag shrieked and slipped, arms pinwheeling, all balance gone. He was screaming at her, asking her why she did it. Yeah, that was read that.
Yeah.
Wait, Mag said, set up and tried to stand, but his lower legs refused the job, the severed Achilles tendons dumping him forward again onto the snow. When he lifted his head up, he heard the noises coming up from behind him. No, Mags thought. No, this is all a mistake. Just a big mistake. He looked back, and they fell on him. Oh, chilling. That's dark. But it makes sense in a Sith world, it's really a good pairing, I think, of a zombie story with the Sith, and again, it works in the Star Wars universe because it's this far off remote Sith planet, with this academy on it. It's not like it's, universe or galaxy wide rather. Going into chapter 36, we are now back with Zoe in the library, and this is pretty dark. She is, tensing to run. I'm trying to find the moment. It's pretty creepy. If I can't find it, I'll just explain it. She's walking through the library and she is calling out to the orchid. Eventually, at one point, she feels a glove, like a black glove, come across her chest, like seeking out the sensitive points of her chest for her heart, and everything like that. It's like, what is this going? And you find out it's actually not the glove itself. It's Lord Scabrous steps out ahead of her, and it's him using the Force on her. She sees him, that he's kind of halfway there with the zombie virus and everything like that. And they have this conversation. She can't do that whole Speed Force thing again anymore. That was just kind of a one-time shot, or it exhausts her or whatever. So she's pretty much at his disposal. He also has Dallas, the Nettie, is all of the bodies that she had grown the Murakami orchid into, the zombies that she had earlier asked the orchid to grow in. They kind of fold up around her because Dallas is using his vines and strength anyway, like that. So these bodies are kind of careening around her, holding her in. Basically, it's pretty creepy. And we get, I think, is it this chapter that Scabrous gives her the whole point of the plot, right? What he's going to do with her, why he's doing it, or is it? Yeah, under these floors, Dreer built for himself a secret temple where he practiced the rituals and rites of the ancients. Scabrous gestured, and they pulled her down. So he's about to tell her what's going on. But before that, we jump to chapter 37, where it's her brother. So we're back with Trace, Rojo Trace. Remember, he had just had that fight with the Blade Master, and one of the zombies took out the Blade Master. So he's running through. He's trying to call out to her in the Force. He eventually ends up in the where is he at this point? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he's in the library. 20 seconds the time it took him to reach the entryway, shoving his way through the unmindful of the darkness, the snow, the clutter, the thickening stink of smoke, loose objects like random about him. Hastizo, it's me. Are you there? It's Rojo. I'm coming. An arm hooked him from behind, lurching him upward. Have a care, Jedi. An ancient voice, it croaked in front of him. Each word, and it's the Dallas, Nettie, grabbing him and taking him there. This was my dwelling place, So the Rojo hears from the from Nettie, from Dallas, the Nettie, what's going to happen. What Scabrous basically has planned. I forget how he escapes. How does he escape the Nettie Owl?
I forget. I'm like sitting there, I was like, how did he? Because I know he ends up down there facing Scabrous.
Yeah, he's the Nettie says you're gonna die here with me because I'm about to go. He's gonna basically go in the fire. The Sith Scabrous discovered the Sith. All right, here's what he says: Trace fought to clear his mind. Heat, his skin blazed. Smoke saluted his bronchial passageways, scorched the inner lining of his nose. So that's right, I forgot. The Nettie is basically blazing, burning down everything, and it's really kind of cool how Rojo survives. He pushes out. He uses the Force to create a Force bubble around him of air.
Yeah. Right.
So that he pushes the oxygen outside of the Force bubble. So he's holding his breath. But if the oxygen's outside of the Force bubble, that means the fire can't burn inside and burn him all to pieces. He ends up seeing his lightsaber, and he calls his lightsaber forward. It was actually a really cool scene. Don't know why it just slipped my mind for a second. There's so much to remember here live, but it's really cool how he did it. That command of the Force. That's one of the cool things about the Old Republic novels. I haven't read as many of the Star Wars EU books that come after, like the Thrawn trilogy, so I don't know how much this plays with that as well. I'm sure it does, but they can really do some cool things with the Force when they're trained well. Like creating that bubble around yourself. In the novel Deceived, there's this one point, that or something. There's this one point where these two people fall from a plane, and she's using the force to kind of like push against the momentum of the ground, and ends up making it somehow to survive, creating that force bubble around them. So you can do some really cool things with the force. Rojo ends up surviving, but the fire and everything, basically, he ends up falling through the floor. The debris around him was rolling with activity now, half-burned shapes clawing their way upward and below. They were covered in vines. Gravity took him, and he fell. So he's down underneath the floor where Scabrous was taking Mestizo anyway. Pretty wicked scene, pretty tense scene, pretty heavy scene. So you're going to need a break from after that. And the break, which is its own kind of suspenseful break, is in chapter 38. Purgus Frode was the name of the kind of the mechanic, of the ships, the guy that manned the landing pad there. And remember, he's not an actual... he's Sith in that he's part of the Sith Empire. That's where he lives, but he's not a Sith Jedi, a Sith Master. He's not a Force user, of the Sith. So he's pretty much just kind of keeps to himself. We get a little bit more of his character here, which is pretty cool. He at this point, he was given, I don't think we mentioned it, but those two bounty hunters that came to the planet first to try to pass off a Murakami Orchid with Lord Scabrous. But Lord Scabrous knew it wasn't the real one because they didn't bring a Jedi with it, So those ones that he fed that one, his partner, it was creepy. But Purgus Frode had asked if he could have their ship since they weren't coming back. And the HK droid was like, yeah, whatever. So he went in and he was taking out their navigation system, taking out their flight navigation system. And that's what he wanted to claim for his own. So he's there taking out the navigation system in that ship. And then suddenly zombies start to pile all around him. And he realizes
he starts to regret that decision.
Exactly. He's like, he could fly away, but he just removed the whole flight navigation system. So he hides. He hides in this smuggling compartment because it's a bounty hunter or smuggler's, ship. So he hides in the smuggling compartment. And then he starts to hear somebody call him. And it ends up being Kendra. Kendra's outside and she's calling, let down the ramp, let me up, we'll escape together. And it's, what do you do, right? But Purgus Frode is kind of the measure of a character. Are they decent or not? And I like that we have this little moment where Purgus Frode is like, this is why he came to this remote planet, because women could always get him to do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
So you don't really know if is he just a decent person or is it because she's a pretty girl or whatever. But he ends up letting down the ramp. And sure enough, Kendra's out there. She's got the zombies with lightsabers all surrounding her. And she's saying, okay, I did what you wanted. Now let me go. And of course they just, they slice her open and eat her. So she was just working at the behest of the zombies themselves. So Purgus Frode runs back in. She said, I did what you wanted. The things fell upon her, the Red's blades slashing her to pieces. They ripped her apart. Even from where Frode stood, the crunching noises were thick and juicy and glottal. Ugh. Like the sound of someone biting into a particularly ripe apple. Oh, gross. Ooh. Several of the corpses broke free from the ground and started thundering up the gangway toward the open hatchway, just as Frode slammed it shut again. He decided he could fly the ship without the flight computer after all.
He's supposed to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
But they were saying, I think without the flight computer, you basically don't know where or orientation or anything. Because I thought he figured that since she had powers of the Force that she could actually possibly be the flight computer.
Yeah.
Which is one of the decisions that he thought might be a good idea to bring her on.
Yeah. I just realized I was missing some of the chat here. I was just so wrapped up in how cool the story is and the writing. Yeah. Horizon Talker says, really, the way the sickness acts is a great metaphor for evil in all its forms. I agree. Mm-hmm. We also have Netter joined the chat. Netter saying hi to all of her characteristic hi sweeties. Great to see. Samuel Proctor, Force Lightning is usually a crowd control in video games. Yeah, Force Lightning is pretty sweet in Force Unleashed. I'm in halfway through Force Unleashed 2 right now. I've been kind of taking a break so I can finish reading the novel of the first one first. That's good. Wolf to Media, to me, my X-Men. Wolf to Media says, got Dredd flashbacks listening to you read that HK part. Yeah, Judge Dredd. Yeah, okay. Phoenix Halcyon, welcome Phoenix Halcyon. Likes this edgy version of Star Wars. Yep. It's this one, and if you like this one, Death Troopers is the first book he wrote, but this is a book he wrote second as a prequel to it. So Death Troopers obviously takes place when they're stormtroopers and whatnot. Oh, Sound Engraver popped in. Popping in to say hello. I'll be making dinner and editing my Siege of Mandalore video. Great to have you say hi anyway. Good to have you there. All right, I think I'm caught up there. Yeah, Force Unleashed is good. Okay. 39, chapter 39. So we're back with Zoe now. It's about time. It's about time you go back with Zoe. You cycled through all the other characters. She wakes up. She regains consciousness. Tight bands across her chest and shoulders, twisting her joints like ground glass. So it's all these vines, basically tying her there. She breathed, coughed a little, and here is where I think he might have told her before his plan. I think, but I'm just going to give it to you now. So basically, Lord Scabrous, there was a Lord. I forget the name of the Lord who founded that Jedi Academy, but he left this holocron behind, and it was in the library. And you find out that the Jedi Master who founded the library,
Darth Dreer.
Darth Dreer, that's right. Yeah, I knew it was something D. Darth Dreer had been already experimenting with ways to gain immortality and using these different plants and whatnot. So he had already kind of unleashed the zombie virus at one point, or something like it. But he realized that the one way to regain your personality, to not allow yourself to be taken by the mindless virus, is if you have a Jedi there who's powerful in the Force, and at the very moment that the sickness comes upon you, it's a precise moment, you slice open the Jedi's chest and you drink their blood. It's like, what is going on?
Drink the blood or eat their heart or something.
Eat their heart, yeah. Pull out their heart and eat it. Yeah. So that's what he has Stizo Trace there for. That's what her plan is. And he knows, remember, he's had this blood supplementing his disease blood there just to keep him going a little while longer. And we finally get the plan that he has. If he can just go long enough to eat her heart in this moment where the sickness is taking him, then he'll be able to retain who he is, but also have the immortality of the virus. So Estizo here, she's pinned down. He's holding the sword. He was holding a sword, not a lightsaber, but an actual Sith sword. Its shining blades seemed to have been forged from the same black durasteel as the walls around them. This blade, Scabbers said, belonged to Darth Dreer. It was forged exclusively for him to ensure his immortality. So today, in accordance with his legacy, I will use it to slice out your living heart and devour it while you watch. That's pleasant. So tried to answer with no idea what she might say. Speech is blocked in terror. Here we have I'll just finish reading the paragraph. Terror, bright and uncontrollable, had fastened itself over her conscious mind as she could not stop staring at the sword. At this moment, nothing in her past, her training, or her aspirations for the future seemed to her as real as its blade, the inarguable geometric equation that connected its edge to her flesh. Estizo, there was nothing she could do. The sword plunged down. So he's already kind of he's making this little light cavern in her chest to let the blood flow. And but you hear that Hestizo, she's hearing the voice again from the plant. So the orchid isn't completely dead. Chapter 4. So it's just a little bit of that scene to get you on the edge of your seat, and then we jump. He's building suspense again with these short chapters. Chapter 40.
And we jump, and we're getting a scene I never thought we would ever get.
And what is the name of this chapter, Al?
Well, it's called Wet Work.
Wet Work.
But they might as well have called it Zombie Tauntauns.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, long story short, they're on their way to Tulka's ship. But remember that the zombies had gone all through the Tauntaun paddock. We were there with Tulka and Stizo. These zombie Tauntauns just kind of rush them, and they find out that the zombies themselves are hiding inside the bodies of the zombie Tauntaun.
It's like so disgusting.
Like, man, I get it.
They smell bad on the outside,
inside, outside, all over when they're living dead Tauntauns.
But I like this one. It's like Tulka looked back at the side of the structure where he'd beheaded the Sith thing. The ground began to tremble. He saw a flash of motion inside the half-open hatchway, something big, and he heard a scream, a great torrent of gargling screeches. It didn't sound like the ones that he'd heard before, but the smell was hideously familiar. Watch out, he said. This is going to be bad.
Really bad.
It's like this is going to be bad.
Yep. But you got an HK droid there with you, so still chances are pretty good, and they survive. They survive, but remember beforehand, a Tauntaun had spit on Tulka's face. It wasn't a zombie Tauntaun. Now another one spits on him, and the HK droid knocks him down just in time to where it just hits him on the back of the head rather than the face, where it could be, where it could actually be infecting or anything like that. So they make it through, and at the end of the chapter, though, arriving at the Miracle, his ship, not quite the end of the chapter. He was exhausted and distracted and more than ready to get out of here. Neither he nor the HK noticed the bloody, gelatinous glob of infected Tauntaun sputum that Snow Lizard had fired at him, but it was still there, still trickling steadily down the side of his brow, making its way toward the corner of his eye. That's creepy, right?
I knew that. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Poor Tulka.
And you kind of want, at this point, I was really, and we don't know at this point, reading the chapter, is Tulka going to live? Mm-hmm. Is he going to die? What's going to happen? Because he's not infected yet. It's just dripping towards,
Just like, did it go in? Could it be? It's setting up that possibility in the reader's mind. It's when we meet him, is he going to start screeching and wanting to eat, whatever? Yeah.
So at the end of the chapter, they do get to the landing pad, to the Miracle, and but also the Dragnok, the ship of the other bounty hunter. There's a life sign on the Miracle, so somebody's on the Miracle ship, not on the bounty hunter ship, and we don't know what's happening there, who it is yet, but they decided we're gonna have to go oust us a stowaway or whatever. Another chapter change. We're nearing the end of the book here. Back with Scabrous now, swinging that sword downward with the first cut, the blade slashed through the dirty outerwear and animal skins that Zoe had been wearing since her arrival here, exposing bare skin. She looked down and saw the shallow white trough that the sword had gouged through her flesh, a pale streak of pain, the cut turning red as it filled with blood. So this is shallow little cut in her chest. Zoe went rigid, yanking the straps, knowing even as she did, there was no way she could get loose. Not with your muscles, Hestizo. Reach out with the force. So now we have the voice in her head again. Hestizo, it's me, the voice in her head, the one that she still couldn't quite identify, although its words continued to rip out. Hestizo, where are you? Her brain cried back. Who are you? A remote possibility, wild, somehow impossible to ignore, burst into her mind, fully formed. Rojo, is that you? And Rojo Trace basically is back down there. Get behind me, Trace told Zoe. So he bursts down. Remember, he's going to fall through the floor anyway. And we have this battle now between Rojo, her brother, and Lord Scabrous. It does not end well for Rojo. No. Again, wonderful tracker, and he's just so noble to help his sister, and he's gone through so much, but he doesn't fare up so well against the lords of this Sith Academy. He barely won the one battle he met there firsthand with zombies intervention, and now it's Lord Scabrous, half infected anyway, so you give him that. He's half infected with zombie power, takes him out.
Now, the vibe I got when this happened?
What's that?
Remember Scatman Crothers in The Shining? When he shows up just so you think he's going to be able to help, and the next thing he's got an axe in his back?
I think so, yeah. That's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, here's help. But I guess not.
Yeah. So Lord Scabrous is coming to against Hestizo now, and at that one last moment, I'm kind of going fast because we don't want to be here all night and me reading the whole book to you, but it's well done. But she does ask the orchid to grow. She hears the orchid voice one more time, and it grows, and it's really cool how it grows, and we see it's a slowed down scene with Lord Scabrous is trying to cough it up, but it won't cough up, like it's just growing out of his mouth and everything, and it's pretty creepy. Now he is completely taken by the virus before he even gets to her, so his ritual is not going to work anyway. The worst that could happen is just he's a zombie, she's a zombie,
Yeah, the rotting chamber of its skull cocked slightly to one side as if it had just heard an unfamiliar sound, a voice shouting out from a far off room.
Yeah,
it's just like the rotting chamber of his skull. It's like, ew.
Yeah. So she grabs her brother's body in her arms, lifted him up, pressed his cold neck to hers, pulling the eyelids shut. I'm sorry, she says. She kissed his cheek. Then she goes to the far wall. She throws him to the fire. I'll be your son. Hooking her fingertips into the chiseled letters. All right, so there was these chiseled letters that Dreer had put on the wall, but she uses the chiseled letters to climb out of it. So she's climbing up. That's the end of that chapter. Chapter 42, again, we're slowly getting there. And we're still with Histizo in this chapter 42. She's climbing up, but zombies are starting to climb down. Zombies are climbing down toward her. And something dangled in front of her. Zombies coming down for her. Another vine. She feels a vine. Something black. When Histizo one zombie actually grabs her by the throat and is trying to pull her up. By the time the third, let's see. When Zoe looked up again, she saw it plainly. It was a brilliant white light. So something hovers over this pit. She's trying to climb out of this pit. There's the ruins of the library. Zoe looked up again and saw it plainly. It was a bright white light, so full and intense it brought tears flooding into her eyelids, where they welled over and spilled on her cheeks. What? A second blast pounded off the walls several meters above, shaking the entire passage. She threw one hand up and gripped the craggy edge of the crater. It had left the wall, elbowing her away until she had something like a solid grasp. Now the light was pulsing down everywhere, filling her vision, flooding it from above. By the time the third blast had struck, she had crawled completely into the rough-hewn hole, tucking her legs up behind her. The great pit reverberated violently around her. Bodies were dropping from above, shaken from the perches, and plummeting downward past her. Still screaming, shrieking, clutching together at somehow the infernal bond that death had forged among them might save them. She watched them tumbling down into the fire. Turning her head upward, she saw how many were left. Dozens still, but they were slithering back up and toward up the pit, clambering away so that they wouldn't fall. Zoe blinked. Something was dangling in front of her face from up above, long and slender. It's a vine, she thought. Another vine, and if I never see one of those again, it'll be too soon. It wasn't a vine. It was a tow cable. So you get the idea that this was obviously a ship. And in chapter 43, we're still with her there. It's a miracle that was there. As the cable drew her inside, I like this. Something reached out of the darkness, and Zoe felt cold, talon-like claws fastening over her shoulders and hips, dragging her up. Abruptly, she realized that she was too weak to fight anymore, too fatigued. Whatever had taken the effort to drag her out, she couldn't resist it anymore. Get in here, Tolka's voice growled. Zoe opened her eyes and saw the Whippet crouched down in front of her, squatting on his haunches, face half hidden in shadow. On the other side, a droid, Darth Scabrous' valet, the HK, she realized, was peering at her with that incurious, analytic gaze unique to highly developed artificial intelligence. She seems all right, the HK said. I need to run a diagnostic scan on her to make sure she's not infected. It paused. A small steel panel slid open on its breastplate, extruding a slender syringe. This might sting a bit. Sting? Zoe would have laughed if she weren't so completely undone by terror and exhaustion. After everything she'd been through, the needle hardly registered. She allowed the droid to draw its blood sample for a moment. There was no sound except for the whir of its processors, that slow, steadily rumble of the ship turbines. Sample, it's clean, she said. She's uninfected. The Whippet didn't say anything, just grunted and made a shrugging gesture of one who'd expected no less, then hoisted himself up and began to lumber away. Zoe levered herself up on her elbows. Tolka, she managed. Her voice was hoarse. She could scarcely produce more than the scrape-sounding whisper. Tolka. He stood without turning around and slowly back over his shoulder. Thanks. Another shrug. Wasn't my idea. Yeah, I bet. Zoe said, let out a breath. So you get this sweet little moment again, building this weird thing. Tolka's kind of redeemed in her eyes a little bit. Not totally. He's still a monster. But, it's just weird. But the HK here, who's flying the ship, and he finds out Purgus Frode, the man who was manning the landing pad. But the HK, someone named Purgus Frode, said, I'm picking up some form of contamination, it said, very close by. Zoe stared at it. I thought you said I was clean. You are. The whirring sound had grown louder. Now it sounded alarmed. But something else on board this vessel is. The ship slammed sideways. Klaxons blared that whooped above the companion by the wild swirl of blue lights. She set up just in time, the HK rounding the corner. What's happening? The droid didn't answer, even as she chased it upward, following it through the gangway into the cockpit. By the time the second explosion struck the mirror call, she didn't even answer. She already knew they were under attack. So remember those, we didn't talk about it too much, I think, but those towers that Scabrous had initiated to come up, these are defense mechanisms, anti-aircraft basically, right, for the Academy, and it's automated. So even though there's no one there to man them, really, they're under automated attack. Something on the ship is infected. Is that Tolka? Is it not? We'll find out, and you stop me out if you want to say anything here.
He's doing a good job.
Chapter 44, they realize what's going on. Eventually, zombies are actually starting to attack the ship. They're crawling up the towers and jumping on the ship. So a couple of them even get inside eventually. I'm going to kind of skip ahead here because I don't want to read all the action. But in chapter 45, this is our penultimate chapter here, Mazlot, it's called. Zoe goes looking for Tulka. Where is he? He should be battling these zombies with them. And she goes into that chamber, his trophy chamber, the disgusting place, with the bones and everything like that, and the pots, to sear off flesh and whatnot. And she finds him in there, and he strapped himself to the wall, chained himself pretty vigorously to the wall in his own chains that he has there for slaves. And he tells her that he's infected. He tells her he's going to go, and he tells her that there's a switch behind her. It says Mazlot, which is whipped for seal, I think. It's
airlock.
Yeah, airlock. So the whole wall that he's on actually breaks away, and she can flip the airlock there. And it's a pretty, obviously, she's, she realizes she can't do anything for him, though she wishes she could. Again, the bounty hunter that kidnapped and brought her there. But in that last moment, one of the zombies that's on board, it's pretty well written. I like the moment where he's coming to attack her, and just as the zombie attacks, Tulka starts to scream as well. The sickness takes him as well, and she has to just trip the airlock button, but she can't. She's not beyond the seal, so she can't. So she's like hanging on for dear life there, and
but
eventually, go ahead.
But let's not forget who that last zombie was.
As was promised, right?
Promised, it was Lusk.
It was Lusk, yeah.
The mean boy from the earlier in the book.
Yeah, promised him he would be the last one standing, the last one alive there. So she does climb back in eventually, and they makes it out. But it's a really chilling scene when she looks back. She's behind the shield now, behind the door, the shield for the atmosphere, and she sees the room completely sucked dry from it was worded really well. Let me get shut. Her last glimpse of the hold. You can go to read if you want.
Her last glimpse of the hold was a bare metal chamber, its contents gutted in a matter of seconds by the vacuum of space. Every scrap of the Whippet's gruesome trophy collection was gone, along with the vegetative growth that had marked her brief stay here. All of it sucked clean into the relentless and insatiable void.
In the end, Zoe wasn't surprised. The galaxy that she had learned could be a
very hungry place. Yep.
That's awesome. So the galaxy's a hungry place, the hunger of the zombies and everything like that. But that also that gruesome room that you'd never even want to see. I mean, you can imagine the smells and everything like that completely sucked clean, so it is this sort of clean break from that world, from everything, so you remember that the HK droid goes down too, trying to defend them. So it's basically just her and Purgus Road making it out. We do have one small chapter of a denouement.
Well, let's not forget the HK droid also, he triggers the Academy's power source to just blow.
Yeah.
So the entire complex just is destroyed, taking all the zombies, hopefully, with it.
Yeah. So the whole, hopefully the planet itself, or the whole Academy anyway, is just gone. They get out of there. We do have chapter 46 where she goes back to her nursery there, the botany, the plant nursery. Marfa, yeah. And at first you think she's there to return. She meets her old coworker that she thought was dead, but he's finally wounded. He said, "I'll have quite a scar to show you," because Tulka basically skewered him, impaled him. She does meet a Murakami orchid there, which is the seed brother, I think, of the one that she took, and wants to get to know her, because she's the one that can communicate with them best. But as she says, she's not going to stay there. They heard about Rojo and everything, so they understand. But she wants to go back to the academy, to the Jedi Academy, and learn how to continue her training, continue to be a actual Jedi Knight like her brother. And because, as she says, there's a slight chance that what if something made it off that planet, right? What if something made it off that planet? And this is all, of course, not setting up, but retroactively setting up Death Troopers, the novel that'll take place much later. But it's her and Purgus Road. She's come to trust him, kind of get to know him. He was just a guy in the wrong place, the wrong time, as far as she's concerned. Not a Sith Dark Lord, but just
he's not a bad guy. He's just
a guy.
Is accident of geography just happened to be where he was.
Yeah. So they're off together. She's going to go continue her training just in case anything should have survived. It's even though Death Troopers takes place much longer down in the timeline, it's kind of sad because that there could have been stories in between. Disney will never allow happen now, but Schreiber set this up quite well to now you've got possible zombie stories all the way from the Old Republic to the Death Trooper era, and maybe beyond. Who knows? I want to hear what Al has to say before I give my own thoughts here. But I kind of pitched this to you guys as a novel that did a good job with Star Wars being the Star Wars universe, being an actual Star Wars novel, story, but also I think a fair horror novel and a fair zombie novel. Would you agree with that, Al, or what is your assessment after reading it?
I think it did a very good job of not only being well, like I said, I think it was a better horror story than that took place in the Star Wars universe than it is a Star Wars story that happens to be a horror. If that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. I mean, it makes sense to you. Then you have the final girl, you have the tragic heroes, you have just absolutely wonderful graphic imagery. Coming out here. Thinking if this were on film, it could be a real treat to see this done. And frightening, because there's a lot of aspects to it, not only with just the idea of the shambling corpses, broken, busted, doesn't matter, they just keep coming. And and it'll throw your head at you and just like chomp trying to get you. And then I want it made just for zombie tauntauns, if anything else.
With zombies inside of their carcasses.
Students
hiding inside. Oh my god.
Be a great band name. No, the zombie tauntauns.
The zombie tauntauns. I like that. That's pretty cool. It's really well done. There could have been so much more. Horizon Talker says there's not much connection between this and Death Troopers. Well, it's the same, there's a little bit, but yeah, you're right. It's because there's so much time elapsed, in between, which, as you say, Horizon Talker, makes you think that there could be so much more connected threads. Now, I'm not a horror fan, like I said, and I read this book through the first time thinking, glad I read that. I'll never read that again. And I wouldn't have had we not done it again for the book study. But reading through it a second time, the horror doesn't affect me as much as I know everything that's happening. But I really am quite, as I said, it was really well written and well done. And I'm even more confirmed in that opinion after having read it through a second time and looking at the way he paced it, the way the prose works, some of those passages I read to you guys, the character, developments and I mean, Tulka, man, what a cool character,
Yeah, you do. And like I said, you do kind of feel sorry for him. I mean, to the thing that he was able to chain himself knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, he could have thought, well, if I'm going down, I'm taking them all with me, whatever, No, but he actually willed that they go on.
He made the heroic sacrifice. He, like I said, whatever his past was, I mean, when you think about it, bounty hunter, most of the people they're after are bad guys. So he had a little bit of a collector's habit, kind of a strange little thing he liked to do. But
it's interesting that he tied himself in that room, and that room broke away. So it's kind of like everything that like that part of him died too, It's interesting. I mean, I don't read too much into it. I want to see him redeemed, so I don't want to push it.
Yeah, they say you can't take it with you. Well, he kind of did.
Yep. So that was Red Harvest, guys. I hope you read along. I know some people did, but even if you didn't, I hope you do pick the book up yourself at some point, or at least listen to the audio. It's really chilling, really well done. All those passages I read, the whole book's filled with those kinds of things. So it's really,
like I said, John Glover did a great job reading it. And there's, the the company doing the Star Wars audiobooks do a great job with adding music and sound effects.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And like this, the zombie screams. Oh, chilling. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So coming up, Al, what's happening this weekend? Is it Netters or your? I think I've asked you once before, but I forget your answer.
It is Netters weekend, and it is Netters Network's Retro Cinema, and we are watching the Addams Family movie.
That's right. That's right.
Raul Julia and Angelica Houston, the first one. So
excellent film.
That'll be fun.
That's Saturday, but Fan Man is doing something tomorrow. I don't think I'll be able to be there because I've got to work on this paper that I have due. But he says he's doing something tomorrow for a shorter time period. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll get together and we'll do something. Just chat or see what goes on. Maybe just do kind of a little Q&A with the folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, the family wants to do it. He was very sorry. He had a rough week. He had a stomach flu, and then the wife, her tire blew today, so he had to go take care of that. And he said that was not as easy as it should have been, but so I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about that.
Yeah. Now next week we Tuesday night we have our penultimate book study of the Chronicles of Narnia. We only have 2 left before we finish out that whole series over on Catholic Bible Geek. Wednesday on this channel, Professor Geek, unless something changes, the plan right now currently, if something falls through for him, is to do another Inspiration of Heroes stream with Matt Wilkins, the guy that I was on his channel a little ways back, if you caught that post in the Facebook group. So the guy who's behind the expandeduniverse.com or .org, I forget what the website's address is, but really great guy, big EU guy. He's going to be on the Inspiration of Heroes stream.
Did you say that was going to be Tuesday at 8?
No, that's going to be Wednesday at
Wednesday
at 9:30 our time here.
Yeah. Okay.
So Wednesday at 9:30. And then Thursday, we'll be back here, not for a book study stream, though, for a gameplay. We will be playing through some more Knights of the Old Republic. I don't want to do that for too long because I like our Thursday night book studies here, but it's just really important that we get the whole story of Knights of the Old Republic out there for those who don't know it before we jump into Darth Bane trilogy and start talking about it and spoiling it all over the place. Just a thing. Maybe not as many people as I think are actually going to watch through those gameplay throughs, but it's just kind of my own organizational head. That's how I work it. So for at least 2 weeks or so, we'll finish out Knights of the Old Republic. So no book study on Thursday night for next week, but a playthrough. And then we will come back in a couple weeks, though, for the Darth Bane trilogy. So I forget the name of the first one. Rule of Two is the second one. Whatever the first one is, that's what we're going to start with. So I'll have you equipped for that, Al, and everything.
Awesome.
But it's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun. So any last words from you?
Zombie Tauntauns, man.
Zombie Tauntauns. Yeah.
Gotta love it.
It's a crazy book. It's a wild ride. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys. As always, we'll be back with lots more, but until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love.
I really want to